Today I'm going to show you how to mount and dismount a tire on a tire machine the proper way. We've already marked the tire and we've marked the rim to make sure it goes back on the same axle that it came off of. It's very important with the tire pressure monitor system that we do that. We have talked about that already. We don't write on the front of the tire where the customer is going to see it when the tire is on the car. We want to make sure the front of the tire is clean. The next thing to do is it has to be taken over to the drain. You've washed all the dirt out of the rim because any dirt that's left on the rim ends up on the tire machine. The next step in the process is to use the wheel weight hammer to remove the wheel weight. The wheel weight hammer has a small pin on it. The wheel weight has a small hole. The pin goes in the hole. You pinch the wheel weight, rotate it towards the center of the tire, and the wheel weight comes off. The next step is to use your valve stem removing tool. Remove the valve cap. Keep track of that because it goes back on this tire when you're done. There's small notches in the valve stem tool that match up to the valve stem. So you put it in, turn it around until it locks in. Once it's locked in, you turn it counterclockwise. Now the air is going to come out of the tire, and if there's a full pressure in the tire at 30 pounds per square inch, so be sure you catch the valve core as it comes out. Now it's important to keep track of the valve core and the valve cap. So you want to put them in a safe place where you can find them after you're done with the tire machine. And you put your valve stem tool there. Now, before we remove the tire from the rim, we have to check to see if on a newer car this will have a tire pressure monitor. This tire pressure monitor is a small radio device that sends a signal to the PCM, the powertrain control module inside the car. If it has one of these, most likely you'll see that it has a steel valve stem. You see this one has a rubber valve stem. The importance of this is that this valve stem can be broken off of here when removing the tire, so we have to pay attention if we have one of these to be careful when we remove the tire from the rim. The next step in removing the tire is to break the bead. The bead is the connection between the edge of the rim flange, and the bead down inside of the tire. This is a part of the equipment that we use for this. We have a lever, we have a spoon. It's spring-loaded, so it'll hold tension against the tire. On the back side, you'll see 3 rubber blocks. Make sure those are in place. Those are what protect the other side of the tire when we're breaking the bead. In order to break the bead, we have to bring the tire into the machine. Again, watching where our valve stem is, we want to make sure that's away from the spoon because if we have a tire pressure monitor, it'll break it. We roll it into the machine. Position the spoon next to the rim but not on the rim. Okay, once you have the spoon positioned, you want to push on the right pedal, which will activate the spoon. It will also cause the tire machine clamp to rotate, but you hold that button in until the bead breaks and then release it. Once this bead has been broken on the front side, we remove the tire, turn it around, and repeat the process on the other side, positioning the spoon, pushing the pedal, and breaking the bead. The next step in our process is to lube the bead and the tire flange to make sure it's well lubricated for our next step. To do that, we go over to the Ruglide, which is a tire lubricant, take the tire brush, and we make sure we get that all around the bead of the tire. This is a very important step. This is what keeps us from ruining a tire. We do that on the back side and on the front side. Here we are at the valve stem again. During no process of this procedure do we ever take this valve stem out unless we have damaged valve stem, and that's a whole nother story. Lube it really well. Don't be afraid to get the tire all wet. because this is going to lubricate the tire and make the process easier. Okay, now that we have the tire lubed, the next thing to do is to mount it on the tire machine. The tire machine is spring loaded, so remember that there's a spring here that we have to push down with the tire. Remember, when you lift, lift with your legs, not with your back. Get the tire on the machine, push it down. Now we use the button, the pedal on the left, push it down, until it stops. Now the tire is clamped on the machine and won't come off. The next step is to bring our dismount arm down perpendicular to the tire. This is the dismount shoe. It's made out of nylon, and if everything goes right, this shouldn't break. So we bring the arm down, we bring it in contact with the rim, we make sure that this is perpendicular, and the edge of the shoe goes underneath the flange of the rim. Now, to dismount the tire, we have to use the dismount bar. Notice that the dismount bar has curved edges. Curved edges go underneath the rim. On the shoe, you notice this notch right here. This is where the bar is placed. Place the bar in, the notch, and underneath the rim. Pull on the bead of the tire until it comes to the top. Our valve stem, before we go, this tire is going to rotate clockwise. So we don't want the tire pressure monitor on this side and running underneath the shoe because it'll break it off. So we're going to start with the valve stem over to the right of the shoe, and when it rotates now, the valve stem will go away from the shoe. We're going to use the same pedal that we used to break the bead with, the one on the right. If we push down on the pedal, the tire will rotate clockwise. If we put our toe under and lift up, it'll rotate counterclockwise. To remove the bead, we always push down and go clockwise. The shoe is going to remove the bead from the rim. Now, remember we push the button down to make it rotate clockwise. As it's rotating, we want to make sure that we hold the front of the tire down into what we call the drop center of the rim. So with your fist, you push down on the tire, push down on the button, and the pry bar will come out. And now the bead is off the rim. Now that we have the top bead loose, we have to take the bottom bead off, and it's a similar procedure. We put the tire iron bar in the notch, and again we pull back. Push the button down on the right side, we push down, it rotates around, and the tire is off of the rim. Now you can see why the lubrication process was so important, because the shoe and pry bar are rubbing against the tire. We don't want to ruin the bead of the tire. The next step in our process is to check the flange on the rim to make sure it's not corroded, to make sure it's clean. On aluminum rims, this is where the corrosion builds up and keeps the tire bead from seating on here, and we have what's called a rim leak. So we want to inspect the rim. We can push our pedal down, rotate the wheel, wipe it off, and then take a look at it and see if it needs to be cleaned or wire wheeled off to get any corrosion off of it. This is the results of not lubing the tire and not using the tire machine properly. This bead on this tire was ripped. This tire was ruined because of this. It was not usable. This is a brand new tire, $117. We had to replace this brand new tire for the customer because the bead was ripped on it. This is a results of not using the tire machine properly. In this instance, the shoe came up. Instead of being underneath the rim, it came up and it cut through the side of a almost brand new tire. This tire is not reusable, it had to be replaced. Now, if at any time during the tire removal or installation process you run into a problem, you don't understand what you're doing, the machine's not doing what you expect it to do, stop immediately. Walk away from the machine, get help from one of the instructors. We don't want anybody hurt.